Rounding out the Obsidian CRPGs brings us finally to Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. This one's got a pirate theme to it, so tighten your swords and sharpen your peg legs. Wait, no, that's not right. Let me try again. Sharpen your swords and tighten your peg legs. Wait, you already played the trailer? Why? I was about to... Okay, fine. You know what? Fine. Let's just get the adventure started. Pillars 2 here picks up a bit of time after the first title, and you play as the same person. Of course, you don't have to recreate your character from the first, you can simply craft a new one, but for this playthrough, I did in fact recreate my character, Draws, from the first title. You can, of course, play this game without having played the first, though there is a bit of information from the first game that does heighten your perspective towards the events that unfold here. Because I've played the first, and I want us all to be on the same page, I will now spoil the first Pillars of Eternity. If you have an interest in experiencing that story firsthand, consider this your warning. Towards the end of the first Pillars game, we learn that the so-called gods are not actually gods. They're some form of entity created by an ancient civilization known as the Engwithans. It's not clear what exactly the gods are, but it is known that they're not actually gods. Some form of magical beings, synthetic life, man-made spirits, who knows? In fact, the masses actually do believe that the gods are gods, so getting to the bottom of what the gods actually are is a faraway topic at this point. So with that out of the way, let's get to the game, and for that, we gotta get the premise. Thankfully, Pillars 2 does a pretty good job setting everything up. After the events of the first game, we're happily living and ruling over Caed Nua, our own castle and town. Things are great until the giant, decided his nap was over and woke up, tearing the town to shreds with most of the population, which unfortunately included us. This giant is made of Adra, which is a jade-like stone that has the power to hold souls. The Adra giant itself is actually Eothas, one of the many gods, and one thought to be long gone and dead. We wake up in the in-between, a properly named plane between life and death. We meet up with a lady in knight armor who happens to be the god Bareth. Yo! Did you see that green giant dude? Yeah, I want you to follow him, or I'll kill you for good. Aren't I dead already? How can you kill me again? Don't question me. Follow the Adra giant. Do I have any say in this at all? No, not really. Okay. It's time to create a character. As I said, you're free to craft a completely new character or recreate your previous character. I went with the latter, and because of that, I once again went monk. But what's this? Multi-classing? My, Deadfire, what great build options you have! The game discourages new players from choosing a multi-class, stating that it's for advanced players. But I ain't no bitch. I chose to multi-class. I stuck with monk, but I threw on rogue street fighter as well. Monks receive wounds when they take damage, which they use for abilities. Street Fighter Rogue receives bonuses as they take damage as well. It seemed like a synergistic combo, so I went with it. Once your pirate captain is created, you awake in your quarters to find Adair, who is not only a returning companion from the first game, but also one of the chillest companions in any game I have ever played. Needless to say, he'll be staying in the party. But no time for catching up. The ship is under attack and it's time for our first swashbuckling scuffle.
Misfortune's brewing topside, migrants fires the captain stirs.
Pillars 2 adopts both real-time and turn-based modes. I'm usually a turn-based kind of guy, but after playing the first game, which only had real-time, it felt a bit wrong to play this one turn-based. It's also something you have to choose and stick with at the start of a new game. And some of the rules and stats change in turn-based mode, and I didn't feel like dealing with any of that, so I stuck with the classic real-time mode.
Always like that one. Sometimes I like to wiggle the finger like it's tickling.
Oh, I like your spirit.
With the pirates pummeled, the ship is hit with a powerful storm, and you make the first decision of the game to either save a crew member or a crate of supplies. Regardless of what you choose, the ship then crashes into a nearby island. Our captain awakes from yet another nap, and the game really begins here. The objective is then simple: fix the ship and continue the chase after Eothas, the green giant. This first island serves as the tutorial, to give you an understanding of what you'll be doing over the course of the game and how you'll be doing it. There's touches and changes to nearly every mechanic from the first game, and every mechanic that has been touched has been improved. It's exactly what you want from a sequel. Another one of my favorite touches has been to the disposition system. Instead of speech checks, where you must have a certain level of persuasion or speech skill to convince someone, you now pick dialogue options that have a certain personality trait tied to them. If you choose a lot of honest options and aren't afraid to trust your companions, people will find you more trustworthy and are more inclined to believe you when maybe they wouldn't otherwise. There still are skill checks within dialogue, requiring a certain amount of intimidation to successfully threaten someone and stuff like that. But the disposition system gives you a bit more fine-tuned control over your character's personality without requiring a specific attribute or skill to engage with the dialogue options that you'd want. It plays a massive part in dialogue as well, with any given conversation having numerous options for how you want to act. Goody two-shoes? Sure. Rough and tumble? It's here. My favorite, and the ones that I chose to go with most often, were honest, stoic, and benevolent. I also had a bit of intimidation as well. A stoic pirate captain with the heart of gold is what I wanted to be, and Deadfire always kept me informed with how certain dialogue options would affect my character without completely taking my own personal choice away. But back to our adventure, Adair and I end up in Port Maje, where the governor offers his help, should we help him first. He wants us to investigate his dig site. We get there, clear out the opposition, and pick up another returning character, Eothas. Further into the dig, we find a giant pillar of Adra, which connects our captain's consciousness to Eothas, the green giant. Give me my soul back!
Why?
What do you mean, why? It's my soul!
What's the magic word?
Please. Can I please have my soul back?
I need it.
What? I said the magic word, please!
Your magic has no effect on me.
But, okay, but why did you even...
I'm out of here.
Wait! After finding the research notes the governor wanted and saving the workers that I'm sure the governor was equally as concerned about, we head back to town and report what happened. The governor is happy, our ship gets fixed, and we're guided in the direction of Nekataka, capital of the Deadfire archipelago. We arrive at Nekataka, talk to the queen, and she tasks us with following the Adra giant, which we were already doing. Very helpful, thank you. Before we get on with that though, let's talk side content, because unlike the first Pillars, Pillars 2 here opts for more side content with a shorter main quest. And when I say more side content, I mean there's stuff to do everywhere. You can't walk down the street without someone asking for your help. Most quests are pretty self-contained as well. A lot of these seafaring adventure games like for you to pick up a quest on one island, then sail halfway across the map to complete that quest. Of course, that's still here in Deadfire, but a lot of quests take place in the general vicinity of where you pick it up. It would have been very easy for the game to pad out its runtime by making you travel all over the place, so it's nice to see that they didn't go that route. Always feels good to have your time respected. Reminds me of this time I used to know this guy, and he would go on and on about the most boring things, and at some point I just couldn't take it anymore, and Hey, are you still listening? A few side quests later, the crew finds itself back on schedule tracking down Eothas. This brings us to Hasongo, a city left in ruins in the wake of the Fishmen. Eothas has clearly been here with his telltale signs like, this gargantuan footprint. As suspected, there's another Adra pillar here, and just like last time, touching it sees us talking to Eothas. Long story short, he's headed for another location, and longer story shorter, we gotta meet him there. It's supposedly imperative that we meet him there ASAP, so naturally it's time to drag our feet and live the pirate life to its fullest. Your ship is your mode of transportation from island to island, so you'll be zooming around in this thing quite a bit. You've got your crew, which you assign to various roles around the ship that keep everything working smoothly. Thankfully, the ship isn't something you have to constantly manage, only really swapping people around various stations if someone gets injured and keeping food and water plentiful. It more so acts like another character to outfit with weapons and equipment, which keeps the fun of the pirate fantasy without bloating it with needlessly complex mechanics, much like the actual pirate life would be. Of course, it wouldn't be a true pirate fantasy without naval combat and boarding your opponents. Naval combat is turn-based and text-based. I was pretty disappointed to see this, mostly the text-based side, but after playing with it for a little while, I hate to admit that it does work pretty well. It helps that the illustrations are absolutely gorgeous, and most of my engagements ended with me boarding the enemy ship, which never gets old. But boarding your enemy is only the first half of a true pirate takeover, the second being the plunder of any given ship. This brings us to loot. The loot in the first Pillars game was bland, serviceable at best, boring at worst. Deadfire fixes that by making loot actually exciting. Items have unique effects, enchantments are even more powerful, and better loot overall is more plentiful. It's a direct upgrade from the first title, and it's exactly what I wanted from a sequel. Side questing and leveling is our main priority at the time being, and one of our side quests leads us to tracking down Benwith, the pirate who attacked us at the start of the game. Word is, throwing a party will get his attention, and so throw a pirate party we do. We get him to show his ugly mug, but he doesn't quite seem to remember us. Flashing him the same rude hand gesture Draws first met him with seems to jog his memory. He's riding high and mighty, what with all his pirate friends around and all. One deathly stern look later, and the room clears, leaving Loverboy here to his own demise.
Pisspox, is it past 9 bells already, are you? Got to help me mates load our cargo.
He gets roughed up, and beyond that, he clearly wasn't ready for the fist of fury our captain has. Our party planner, Merc, wants to come along, seeing as we just cleared the bar and soured the mood here. She seems harmless enough, and so Merc joins the crew.
And better a boat full of friends than a fort full of foes! Yeah, foes! Well, not foes, but not friends neither.
Sure about this, Cap? Word's always been that Mercury fell out the womb 3 sheets soused.
Oh, stuff them sheets up your ballast hole, you sorty old furball!
Now that our ship and party are appropriately leveled and geared, it's time to continue following Eothas' footsteps, which leads us towards Magran's Teeth, Volcano Haven towards the north of the map. As usual, Eothas isn't particularly difficult to find. He's down there charging up or something, I don't know. We diplomatically deal with the local Magranites and head down to talk to the big bald green man. He's a bit wordy with his explanation, so here's my version of what information we got out of him. Life and death works on a rotation in Pillars. You live and die, and when the latter happens, your soul passes on to the in-between, where it sits for a while. Eventually, you go from the in-between to the wheel, where your soul gets placed in a new body. Same soul, different body, no memories of your previous life. Such is the cycle. Our green friend here wants to destroy that cycle and carve a new way forward for the world, while also exposing the truth about the gods. He's off to his final stop, not before saving us from the eruptive volcano Magran sets upon us. Back in town, the factions continue to bicker and argue about what should be done, though they all agree it's ultimately left to our captain and watcher, Draws. Now is a good time to admit that while I am following the story thus far, the organization of these various factions continues to baffle me. As with Pillars 1, there are a lot of names, but where the first title saw confusing naming conventions, but simple names, Pillars 2 has the opposite, where the conventions are simple, but the actual names don't necessarily roll off the tongue. Nekataka, the Huana, the Rawatai, and so on. It's not terribly confusing, but I did find difficulties distinguishing factions and subfamilies within those factions. Regardless, the decision of who to side with isn't an easy one, and the gods offer their own ideas ranging from gods and humans living in harmony to crushing humans into submission of the gods. This is one of the final decisions of the game. Who do you side with to get to the island of Ukaizo and confront Eothas, while giving that same faction control over the Deadfire? My original gut instinct was to follow the natives, the Huana, as their reign birthed Nekataka, the bustling capital of the Deadfire. Following their questline led me to their darker side, which involved, but was not limited to, legal slavery, the capture and unlawful imprisonment of a dragon, and rampant pirates. Their future seemed blinded by tradition, and so our captain decides a new form of leadership may be the best answer. The Royal Deadfire Company. We had dealings with them through some of the side quests we had accomplished, putting us in good standing with the company. Their morals seemed stronger than others, though they seek to solidify their place in the Deadfire through violence. It's a tough call, new and potentially improved life for all in exchange for violence and death now. Casualties to a minimum, she says. Here's to hoping she believes her own words. Assassinating the Queen is the first and only step to getting us all to Ukaizo. Not exactly the noble mission the crew was looking for, but considering our other options, maybe noble was a bit far-fetched. Royal Deadfire launches an assault against the capital, giving our crew an opportunity to sneak into the palace and assassinate the Queen. After the many hours our crew has spent fighting pirates and clearing out celestial ruins filled with malformed monstrosities, taking out one simple queen is no problem for us. Though we all share a collective groan at what we just did. Assassinating a queen? It's hard to tell ourselves we're still doing the right thing. Nevertheless, the company is happy with our efforts and gifts us a submarine to get us to Ukaizo. Unconventional, but also pretty sweet. We make our way to Ukaizo, and just off the shore of the island, it appears so did everyone else. We then engage in a grueling fight against many ships from many different factions. Our crew maintains support of our Royal Deadfire allies, and once there's a break in the fighting, we bolt straight for the island to confront Eothas. Atop the tower in Ukaizo, we're able to disable the magical machine causing the violent storms surrounding the island. With that, the gods summon our captain for their final words, though at this point it's more akin to a final plea. With the storms gone, it's now time to confront Eothas, who is currently beating away at the machinery that houses the wheel. Our captain is stoic, honest, benevolent. What choice would someone like this make? Does he support Eothas in destroying the wheel, breaking the current cycle of life and death in exchange for living in truth? What comes after? Does life end? It's impossible to know, yet continuing the cycle feels fake, fleeting. This is an opportunity for all kith, humans and alike, to create our own future, whether it lasts or not. No more living a lie under these false gods. Our captain allows Eothas to destroy the wheel. The future, while not certain, is now in the hands of kith rather than gods who bicker and play with us as puppets. I wanted to try something a little different here. A bit more adventuring and a little less stock by-the-numbers mechanical rundown. Pillars 2 is great. It enhances nearly every feature from the first game, and it's better across the board for it. This one focused on more side content rather than a lengthy main campaign, which I liked. I enjoyed the freedom to run across stuff on my own, and honestly most of the side content here is just as enjoyable, if not more so than the main story. It's a fully fledged pirate RPG, which we don't see too many of. Supposedly, Obsidian's next big project, Avowed, takes place within the world of Eora, same as Pillars. That alone has me interested in Avowed. The Pillar series really laid some groundwork here for a top-to-bottom world. Expansive, deep, interesting, words that all describe the universe that's been made with Pillars. Tiny details everywhere, superb writing, interesting characters and factions. There's near endless possibilities with Eora, and I can't wait to see how the Obsidian-verse shapes up over time. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you. It really does help the channel. Let's talk about Pillars 2 down in the comments. What do you think of Obsidian's latest, but hopefully not last, CRPG? Until next time.
As the Watcher of Cadnua and the former Herald of Berith, you return to your ship and begin the long journey home. You hope for calm weather.